Hi, I'm Christine Nichols. I'm up here on the billboard. I wish on this billboard in a big city like this it would say Stop CPS Corruption. I have been exposed to it personally. I needed to get my story out. I've blogged about it on its timeline hyphen exposing dcf.blogspot.com. Um, I've exposed the sociopaths that we've had to deal with, and not just DCF, but other ones as well. But my first experience with them was on February 15th, the day after my grandson had been returned to me after his father had fled with him. His father and his father's mother had fled with him 2.5 months earlier. And then his father was arrested in an undercover sex sting operation called Operation Green Shepherd 3 or Operation Shepherd Green 3, something like that. Aaron Tiskowitz is the name. You can Google it. But February 15th, DCF came out to my home, and I had made the mistake of, I make a big mistake of being an open book. And I just figure I never have anything to hide, so I just say it as it is. And I was still very upset over what had happened on December 6th when my daughter's husband and his mother had brutally beat my daughter and she had post-traumatic stress disorder and had black eyes. If you go to my blogs, you'll see the pictures of her. She had two black eyes. She had a cervical strain or sprain, contusions to the wrist and shoulders, all kinds of injuries, and her bruises lasted over 30 days. She was brutally, severely beat. They didn't have a mark on them, but yet when the police arrived, and I have the 911 call narrative blog also on my blog, with it broken down of who said what, because the mother-in-law ended up calling 911, and by the time the police got there, she was the only one you could hear talking. My daughter had just finished yelling for help, to please help me, help me. In the background, she was the only one yelling for help the entire call. And Laura, the mother-in-law, who had punched her right in her face, and then someone brutally attacked her from behind when she went to go look at her face in the mirror. And somehow the charges were brought against my daughter. And when they asked about Braden, the mother-in-law manipulated the fact that my daughter had dropped him when it was Laura who had actually dropped him. It's a long story, but she ended up getting a no contact order against her and charges against her, which were eventually dropped completely. And we still need to move forward with putting a complaint in for a wrongful arrest. Because of the sheriff arresting the wrong person, it had a domino effect where my grandson ended up getting caught up in a web of deception, just a web of lies and deception. And when his father was arrested in the undercover child sexting operation, Braden was returned to me. DCF came out. I was talking to her about December 6th, still very upset, showing her the pictures, thinking, because we had reached out to DCF right after December 6th, even though Nikki had no contact order. We reached out to DCF trying to explain to them, trying to get them to come out to see her injuries, trying to get them to understand the crazy we were dealing with. And because we were in fear for Braden's life, literally, we were in fear for my grandson's life, because his father has always, from the day we met him in 2006, has always complained and just whined and cried and gotten vicious over how abusive his mother has been to him his entire life. And I just find it ironic on December 6th, he ends up teaming up with his mom. Although in the beginning of the 911 call, he's begging her and pleading her and telling her that she was in the wrong. By the end of the 911 call, or by the time the sheriff got there, he totally changed his tune and sided with his mother when they charged my daughter. And I was trying to explain all this to Tiffany Perry, who's young and naive, has no clue of the evil that exists in this world, apparently. And I got emotional. I was upset. My voice was even shaking. I was just so thankful that Braden was home safely. It had been 2.5 months since we had seen him. 2.5 months. And I was just so grateful. I was filled with emotion. We had gone to pick him up a couple hours away to meet the sheriff to get Braden, and didn't get home till like 2:30 in the morning, and then I had to be up before Braden got up, and I had only gotten like 4 hours of sleep, so I was exhausted, but I was thrilled that Braden was finally safe. I mean, you just don't know the concerns we had for him and how frustrating it was that nobody would listen to us because the police arrested the wrong people. It just makes the victim. They end up arresting the victim, which only continued the cycle of abuse. It continued the cycle of abuse. And what happened was, apparently she wasn't happy with my demeanor and made a judgment call that I was disoriented, were her words, but yet I was naive to this. And Laura ended up making a call to the sheriff who had returned Braden to me with vicious lies about my daughter and I, when she knows nothing about us, nothing about me, that's for sure. Knows nothing about me, and she's just a master manipulator. She's evil. And she went to I just can't even believe Troy Simon, a sheriff, said, well, she is the biological grandmother. Well, so am I. That makes two of us. So what does that make her more important than me? So anyway, they made a plot to show up to call me on Monday and tell me if I did not hand Braden over willingly, I would be arrested. This is DCF telling me this. Now, mind you, I have no clue what kind of power DCF has or what I know that they supposedly save abused children, but I hear more of children who are getting abused in foster care and in their care than not getting abused, and only hearing bad things about them. But was totally in the dark as to who are these people to tell me I will get arrested if I don't hand over my grandson willingly. It made no sense to me, and they could give me no reason, no logical explanation. And little did I know they were on a mission to return Braden, to kidnap him from me, intimidate me into making me think I would get arrested, in order to take Braden back to Laura, the one who brutally beat my daughter and abused her children all their lives. And one child, she even adopted a disabled child in order to collect the disability check. And when she moved here to Florida, a few counties away, to live near a guy she met online, supposedly, now I forget what I was going to say. Oh, she ended up moving here without the boy that she tried to get back to DCF. And the only reason why she was able to move here is because she won a money award settlement after a car accident. So she no longer needed his disability check. Tried to give him back to DCF. They wouldn't take him back. And then lo and behold, she shows up in Florida with no kid, but yet she's still bragging about getting his disability check. This is the woman that they were going to willingly, who DCF interviewed after December 6th incident and claimed she was a walking time bomb. Those are their words, walking time bomb. and seeing the injuries that she had done to my daughter. Had I witnessed them, the injuries, severe injuries, and they were planning on kidnapping him from me in order to take him to her. How much sense does that make? Looking out for the best interests of a child. But I didn't know this at the time. All I know is they weren't giving me a good enough reason to hand any child over to a stranger. I don't care if they're wearing a badge. They're not a police officer as far as I'm concerned. And I've had no knowledge of them having such power. Was I scared to death? Absolutely. I was in disbelief. I couldn't understand how someone could threaten me the way they were and try and intimidate me when I had done absolutely nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. And finally, she just kept, Evelyn Harris was her name, who showed up at the house. And she kept getting on her phone, calling backup. I'm going to call backup again. I'm going to call backup. You don't want me to do that. I'm going to call backup. Well, the Holy Spirit was with me, and push come to shove, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get myself to hand him over. I decided to get arrested. I was like, you can arrest me. At least that way there would be a witness to it. A witness. And I know the police will at least have some kind of record proving who's taking him and where he's going and everything else, which she wouldn't answer any of my questions. So we did that, had gotten a hold of our lawyer, and she found out my sister was on her way, and she just ended up leaving out the door without saying a word once she found out my sister was on her way, which would have been a witness to her being here and trying an attempted kidnapping to take him back to an abuser, a walking time bomb per DCF. That's how screwed up they are. But it didn't happen. And the lawyer told us that we should just go away somewhere. And I wish we had gone somewhere far, far, far away, because we were gone a week, came back, had run out of money, and came back. And the day after we came back, Laura apparently had called DCF here to spread more rumors and more vicious lies. She had managed to take Braden away on December 6th after brutally beating my daughter, and fled with Braden. Didn't care what Braden, about tearing Braden away from his mother. Didn't care one bit about what it would do to Braden to do that to him. I mean, he is nothing but an object to this woman. She is evil. But so she was going to try once again, and DCF was going to be more than happy to help her in the effort to take Braden away from me, but they failed. So they called DCF here. They transferred the case to here, and DCF was on a mission. And the day after I came home on February 26th, I believe it was, February 26th, someone knocked on the door, and it looked like the same woman, Evelyn Harris, that had been here the week before, who had tried to kidnap him. So I refused to answer the door. I ran to my bedroom, called my sister, and told her to come here immediately. I was scared to death. I was shaking. I was so frightened. I couldn't understand what was happening, what was going on, why they would do this, what mission that they were on. And I think by this time we had found out that they were planning on taking him to Laura. So my main concern was for Braden's safety, and I wanted a witness here. So I refused to answer the door, and thank God I did. Thank God I did, because she ended up calling the police for backup. And because I didn't answer the door, I was in the bedroom and decided to take a shower and give Braden a bath, just to try and calm my nerves and settle down, because I didn't want Braden seeing me so upset, and waiting for my sister to get here. Well, by the time my sister calls me on the phone and she got here, she told me that, she said, do you know there's 5 police cop cars outside of your house? I was like, no. I mean, like I said, I was in the shower, I was in the back room. I just heard them pounding on the door, and I had just seen one lady at the door when I had looked out. I had no clue there were police officers here. But they totally violated my Fourth and Braden's Fourth and 14th Amendment rights. And the first thing the police said was, "It's a good thing you answered your door because we are about to break it down." Well, they had no probable cause. They had no warrant. So what would have given them the right? What probable cause did they have? A phone call? I've researched it enough to find out that a phone call is not probable cause in order to be able to come into your home and interview your children or yourself without having a lawyer present. You have that choice. You do have that choice. But as it went, I didn't know. I was in the dark. I let them in. They totally searched my house in and out because Laura had told them that my daughter was here. Now, how are they going to go based on the words of a manipulating, pathological liar who lives counties away from us? How would she know where my daughter is or what I'm doing with my grandson? How would she know? She's never even seen me interact with my grandson except for on December 6th. And because she was so wired out and drunk, I had to end up leaving because she just made me feel so uncomfortable. But, you know, by the words of someone calling from counties away, a few hours away, calling with these vicious lies that my daughter, who had a no contact order, remember at that point in time still, was living at my house and violating the no contact order. So I guess that gave them the right to search my closets and my house inside and out. But so have it, it worked out for the best because in the long run, because the police ended up coming in here, although I did get upset with them because I did end up telling them that, well, for one, I told them I was upset because someone had just tried to kidnap Braden a week previous to it, and they acted like I was totally crazy, like they knew nothing about it. Which Shelia Luther, who was the one who called the cops and was at the door, knew about it. She was very aware of it. She was in on it, and she acted like I was totally crazy when I mentioned it. They are lying sociopaths. When they are on a mission to take a child in order to collect the incentives that are given for every child placed into their state's care in order to save their jobs, it's job security for them, and when they adopt a child out, they even get more money for it. And the person you want to Google is, no, I forgot her name, Nancy Schaefer. She was a politician. Nancy Schaefer. Google Nancy Schaefer, CPS corruption. She was a politician who tried to expose the CPS corruption and was murdered. Her and her husband. There's a conspiracy theory that they were murdered because of her trying to expose the corruption within CPS. Now that's pretty scary if you ask me. Someone who's in politics actually trying to speak out against DCF and the corruption and how it should be a state expense and not a federal fund. Our taxes are paying these people. Our taxes are paying these people to legally kidnap your children. Anyway, they came into my house, totally searched it. I ended up saying something belligerent, like if you had arrested the right person on December 6th, none of us would be going through any of this right now. I just couldn't believe it was just too much drama. It just seemed like it was never ending. And I hate drama. I can't stand it. It just gets my nerves on end. And I just couldn't even believe that they were violated, made me feel so violated and putting Braden through so much trauma. Time and time again, he had already been through enough trauma as it was. And all I wanted to do was protect him. So I did make that comment to them, which is what made me believe Shelia Luther, once the police left, Shelia Luther demanded that my sister stay in my home with me. She didn't know my sister from Adam. She didn't know if she was a drug addict. She didn't know if she was an ex-murderer. She didn't know if she was a child molester. Not that she's any of those things. She's actually a godsend, and she's been my rock. But to dictate to me that my sister has to stay in my home, I made dinner for us. I cleaned up after dinner for us. I watched Braden the entire night. Who is this woman to dictate to us to tell me my sister has to stay in my home? Well, for one, that's total bullshit. We should have just known, but we didn't know. We knew no different. We thought she used the police as her scapegoat. She knew that that's how they didn't get away with kidnapping Braden the week before, because I decided to get arrested, made the choice to get arrested. But instead, when I called their bluff, is what it boiled down to, not realizing it. But so when the police left and she came back, she ended up telling us that her job was on the line and that the police were really upset with my demeanor. Yet we were able to find out a couple months later that that was a flat out lie. She totally lied to us. And then she continued to lie and said that we needed to come down to the office the following day in order to take care of this misunderstanding. And she was sure that the misunderstanding would be they would be able to take care of it. That we just had to bring Braden down the next day. Well, when we went down the next day, and something in my gut told me not to, don't ever, ever take your child to DCF territory. What we came to find out is the police refused to remove Braden, and Shelia was shit out of luck and had no power to be able to remove Braden, because the police thought that the complaint was unfounded, that they found Braden to be in great condition, that he seemed to be well taken care of. My pantry was filled with food. I had running water, blah, 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 blah. I did not appear to be under the influence of illegal or legal substances. And she did a pill count of me. She did do a pill count. And she asked me if I drank alcohol, and she never and I just told her yes. I mean, I'm 55 years old. Who hasn't drank alcohol when by the time they're 55? It's very unusual if you never have. She didn't ask me how much, how often, when, the last time, or anything. But, I didn't think anything of it. She got me to trust her, and I honestly believed that she put the best interest before the child, looked out for the best interests of the child in all aspects. But little did I find out that is the farthest thing from the truth. They do not look out for the best interests of the child. They could care less that they traumatized Braden. When we took him down there, they isolated me, put me in a room all by myself, didn't even speak to me until they came to the room, demanded me to leave, and then demanded me to leave. And I was on the phone with my lawyer, and all I did was ask them if they would please talk to my lawyer, because I saw Braden wasn't there. If they would please talk to my lawyer. I just held my head up high. All I wanted to do was fall apart and completely fall apart, because I saw Braden was no longer there, and I was in total disbelief. And she was demanding me to leave with no explanation of why they were doing what they were doing. No reason. Like I was just a criminal. They treated me like dirt. Like just a piece of dirt, just a piece of garbage. I worked for Verizon Communications for 30 years, and raised two of my children on my own. And this is the kind of respect I get when I've done nothing wrong, to be completely violated like this, to have my grandson to tell me to come down to your office because the police want to talk to me when there are no police that want to talk to me. Well, And then, to make it worse, the following day, she said, "No, we're not speaking to your lawyer. You can have your lawyer speak to us in court tomorrow." We had less than 24 hours to find a lawyer to appear in court the following day, which we weren't able to get a good one. She totally sucked, and we would have been better off representing ourselves. They made me out to be a drug addict because of medications I've been on since 1990. Since 1990 that I've been prescribed, and I've always taken as prescribed or less, or I've taken less for anxiety and for the pain in my back, which I use a cream on my back now, and was hardly on any type of, I can't even remember what it was that I was on, but it was nothing compared to what I used to be on in Maryland. And they tried to say that when I brought Braden there, which they didn't even see me. Remember, they isolated me in a room, didn't talk to me. But they said I was under the influence then. They lied, flat out lied. And then they proceed to say I had been arrested. Wow. I was in shock. I was completely, in shock. I could not believe what I was hearing. I have never been arrested in my life. Never. Who are these people? Who are these monsters to get up on the stand under oath, commit perjury, perjure themselves in order to remove a child from a loving home? These are monsters. Total monsters. That's what they are. They're nothing but sociopaths working for an agency that is working for the incentives that they collect for every child that they snatch away and remove from homes that are not being abused, that are not being neglected. And it is outrageous. It is totally, it's a sin. It is evil. It is downright disgusting, and it ticks me off to no end. I'm just livid over the whole thing. Livid. It took us 9 months. August 19th, not 9 months, August 19th and 20th, there was 2 different hearings back to back, and they reunified my daughter with her son, but they tried to say that in my own home, where they would be living, in my own home, I could not care for Braden, nor could I be left in a room with him by myself just to cover their asses for the reason they removed him now. Because remember, I was under the influence. Using my medications against me, of course, which I've never have been judged in a negative way whatsoever where my medicines are concerned, and I've always taken them responsibly, never overtaken them or anything. It's outrageous. It's totally outrageous. And like I said, I've been taking them since 1990, whatever. And they ended up saying that I was arrested, and they took him. That was it. I was powerless. I was completely powerless. They didn't have to show any evidence, no evidence whatsoever. No evidence whatsoever to prove that I had actually been arrested. And do you know, I went and got myself fingerprinted by their agency, just to, I was still in disbelief, well, they obviously made a mistake. I'll prove to them I've never been arrested. I went and got fingerprinted from them in hopes to think that we could get Braden back. I was desperate to get Braden back. I knew he had been wrongfully removed, and he should never have been removed. And on August 19th and 20th, the reunification, for them to dictate that he could not be left in the same room with me, or that I could care for him at all, brought out the opportunity. Over $10,000 later, almost actually $13,000 later, we hired a good attorney, because the public defender is a public pretender. Do not trust the public defenders. They're on the same payroll as CPS, DCF. They get paid by the same funding. It's all a racket. They might as well be the mafia, except the target is children. It's child trafficking. But anyway, what was I saying? Uh, my mind starts going 100 miles an hour, and now I can't remember what I was saying. Oh, on the 20th. It opened it up where we were able to present the police report that someone had mentioned for us to get along the months that were to follow after he was taken. And if we had had this police report, they would never have been able to remove Braden. Never. The police report totally contradicted every single thing that they had said. Everything. Um, I mean, I've already told you everything that they said in the report, but they actually tried to, in court, say that I could not care for Braden or be left in a room with him. That meant even if my daughter was doing laundry, he could not be in the living room with me. That's crazy. That's insanity. That is totally, they knew darn well that they freaking lied, and they use deception in order to remove my grandson, and then they think they're going to dictate how I'm going to live in my house with my grandson under my own roof. That is, oh my gosh, it makes me livid. CPS, DCF is corrupt. They are sociopaths as far as I'm concerned, and they need to be stopped. People need to get their stories out. They need to write to the media. Everyone needs to unite together and get their stories out to the same media, which I've been trying to do on Facebook, trying to get enough people together where we can contact the same journalists or the same media contact or the same politician and get our stories out to try and make a difference. Try and make a difference for the better for our children. Our children deserve to have a voice. They deserve to be heard. It's about our children. God's gifts are our children. They are a gift from God, and they should be cherished as such. And that's all there is to it. And DCF shouldn't have a God complex. They shouldn't have the kind of power they have with no accountability for what they do wrong, all their wrongdoings. Power and greed equals corruption, and that equals evil. Stop CPS corruption. Thank you.